Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gary Dick. Well, this week, a special edition of our show as we focus on stories from around Indiana and the importance of economic and community success for the entire state, not just Indianapolis and metro areas, but all of Indiana. The Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs is in business to really strengthen rural communities and position them for economic growth. This year has certainly been like no other. OCRA says it awarded 112 grants to 62 communities, totaling nearly $21 million in much-needed funding. And with more on the impact of the COVID-19 response grant program and the state of rural and community development in Indiana, pleased to be joined by Indiana Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch and the newly named OCRA Executive Director Denny. And welcome to you both.
Thank you, Gary.
Governor, I'll start with you. We want to talk about the state of rural Indiana, but in terms of OCRA, the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, been around for less than 20 years, but this agency was really one of the first to respond in the state earlier this year to COVID-19, the pandemic that hit all communities so hard.
That's absolutely right, Gary. When COVID-19 hit, the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, or OCRA, as we call it, repurposed $4.5 million of their funds to be able to help communities that were struggling through COVID-19, whether that would be through PPE or whether it was loans or grants to small businesses or whether it was addressing food insecurity. They immediately pivoted and focused their energies on that. Since then, as you mentioned, we have already awarded $21 million to help small rural communities throughout Indiana. And we're right in the process of another $20 million grant application that will close in January to do even more. We will be focusing on those areas, but also addressing child care issues, mental health, and then rental payment assistance. So that particular agency has been there for rural Indiana because we know that rural Indiana is our next great economic development frontier.
Yeah, we'll talk about that, Denny Spinner, you're the brand new executive director there at OCRA, but you live this on a daily basis as the mayor of Huntingburg, Indiana, and southwest Indiana, I should say. Talk about the state in your view of rural communities and small communities around the state of Indiana.
Well, Gary, I think that you know, as we've gone through this COVID and the response that we've seen from OCRA at this point in support of local communities, I truly believe that there is a chance for the rural Indiana to lead the revival, that road to recovery that the Lieutenant Governor spoke about, the metrics that we're looking at from how the impact of what OCRA has had in these communities. And as a former mayor, I can see how that investment coming alongside local industry, local business to support that, how important that is. And one of the programs that I think is going to lead the way for us is the Indiana Main Street program, because Main Street is the lifeblood for many rural communities, and we have a very strong and thriving Main Street program. We've done some great evaluation of where we are and how that touches lives on a daily basis. And I think that will be a part of our program that really allows us to see how that local business can thrive and survive in this post-COVID environment.
Yeah, Denny, very, very quickly, because we're a little bit short on time, but talk about all communities need assistance, but when you look at rural communities that perhaps disproportionately have suffered more than others, what's the need in rural Indiana, small town Indiana?
Well, I think what we're talking about here is OCRA is a very basic foundational organization that provides that infrastructure that allows communities to thrive and grow. We have to have, and just last week we granted out about $8 million for water, wastewater, and stormwater improvements. You have to have the basics there to be successful. The utility, the foundation that builds us strong, and as I know, a passion for the Lieutenant Governor is the broadband package that we have to have. That is a vital need in rural Indiana, is that connectivity that we have to survive.
Yeah, that was my next and final question. Governor, as you look at the digital divide, if you will, rural broadband so important to connecting homes and businesses, is Indiana beginning to close that digital gap?
Absolutely, because we know that Access to fast, affordable, reliable broadband affects workforce, healthcare, education, economic development, and quality of life. And that is why Governor Holcomb and I have invested $100 million to expand broadband throughout rural Indiana. We've already awarded $79 million, connecting over 22,000 Hoosiers to broadband and getting them that access. And the federal government just earlier this month announced $169 million in grants and awards that will be able to expand broadband throughout Indiana over the next 6 years. It is a priority for this administration going into 2021 and beyond, and I believe we'll see a lot of activity in the General Assembly this session.
All right, great perspective on the state of rural Indiana. Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch, also Denny Spinner, the Executive Director of the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs. Thank you both very much. Happy holidays to you.
Thank you,
Happy
Gary.
holidays, Gary.
Okay.